Welcome to the neighborhood, Hapi Hood the podcast, where we deliver meaningful content to grow your faith, well-being, and leadership skills. Hey neighbor, I'm your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray, lifestyle coach, inspiring others to develop self-worth through leadership applications that will enable them to live in purpose. Hapi Hood the podcast.
Finish
Message.
what you started.
Welcome again to Hapi Hood, the podcast, where we talk about everything from leadership, faith, and well-being. I am your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray. So again, I want to thank you for joining me. And this is a special edition of Hapi Hood, the podcast, because we are live. Yes. So we are live here at Do Greater here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're in their creative lab, and I'm here with some wonderful people, and we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship and talking about mental health. But again, before I introduce them, definitely feel free or do me a favor and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you can always be at the right place at the right time, receiving the right information to drive your purpose. So today I'm with some interesting individuals. Again, we are talking about prioritizing our mental health, thriving as entrepreneurs, prioritizing our mental health for success. So I'm going to introduce my panel here, which I'm definitely looking forward to engaging them on this conversation in front of our live audience. For those that's not here, that's hearing this on the recording, I just want you to know that we're not here alone, okay? But starting with my immediate left, we have Lindsey Christian. She is the creator of the Heartblend podcast, so give it up for her. Next, we have Darren Anderson. He is the founder and owner of Skyhaus Media. Give it up for him. And then, last but not least, we have Danielle Harper. She is a mental health counselor. Let's give it up for her. Now, some of you, like Lindsey, you're no stranger to the neighborhood. Lindsey was on Hapi Hood the podcast, episode 85. So you can definitely go check her out there. Wonderful podcast she has. And Danielle Harper, she's no stranger. She's no stranger to the podcast because I don't know how many times you've been on the podcast.
Maybe about 4 times?
Yeah, maybe four times. She was on our second episode, and then she has done Attitude of Gratitude, and she was recently on the podcast this past Thursday, our latest episode, How's Your Soul? You know, How's Your Soul? A wellness check-in. So again, I'm glad to see y'all. And Darren will be on the podcast soon. We're going to definitely have a time for him to come on. I met this guy through what he's been doing through Innovator Circle. Wonderful person that has definitely helped me within my entrepreneur journey. So let's get to it, right? How y'all feel? Y'all feel good?
Feeling good, bro.
Yeah, I feel good.
Feeling good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some slight nerves. I can admit that. Some slight nerves.
Well, hey,
It's
that's...
about public speaking to me.
You know what? We're all
But I can
family
do
here.
it.
We are all family here, and we're talking about something that is definitely a little bit. You got to have a little bit vulnerability,
Exactly.
you know, to talk about mental health.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know that's needed. That's needed. So to kick things off, I want to kind of help set the stage, right? Kind of provide context of when we're talking about thriving as entrepreneurs, prioritizing our mental health for success. How would you define mental health in the context of entrepreneurship? Lindsey, we'll start with you.
Okay.
So I think when you sign up to be an entrepreneur, you are no longer a regular human being. Let's start off with that.
That's fair.
True. So you're giving a lot of your energy, you're giving a lot of your time, a lot of your efforts, a lot of trial and error, excuse me. And so with that, it's going to come with a couple of negative thoughts are going to pop up in there, extra stress, but also trying to balance your life at the same time because life is still happening. And so your mind is really the foundation for everything. It's creating the vision for where you want to go. It's creating the decisions and the choices that you want to make. And so you have to make sure that you're staying on top of that even more so when you are an entrepreneur because everything's going to fall apart if your mind is not clear and focused and grounded. And so doing whatever you can holistically, taking care of your relationships, taking care of your body, taking care of just how you're feeling and listening to yourself is so important for that wellness as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. What's your thoughts there?
Let's repeat that question one more time.
So definitely. No. So when you think about mental health,
yes,
in the context of entrepreneurship, like what's the first thoughts comes to your mind, right? Even like words that comes to your mind when you think about mental health as an entrepreneur.
Like Lindsey said, you are no longer a regular human being. Just throw that out the window. You know, because this past year, like I can really say, like, bro, you have to, because none of us are really built for this. It's something that you have to develop. Like it's not an option. You know, you have to develop that mental fortitude for the journey of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
If you want to last, you know. So that's one word that comes to my mind. Another word that comes to my mind is like, just health as a whole. You know.
Yeah.
Especially on the negative side because, like Lindsey had also mentioned, your health can slip quick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Very quick.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I'll stay with like a couple of those words right now. I'm gonna expand on that.
Yeah. Totally.
Yes.
What you think, Danielle?
Definitely, because I had a private practice previously, and it's definitely you're a totally different person. Like that whole idea of being just a regular person, it is thrown out the window. But also, the first word that came to my mind was expectations.
Yeah.
Like expecting growth within a certain amount of time is not obtainable. I think like having the pace and setting that pace, being able to double back and seeing like, okay, what did I do right, the wins and things, self-awareness. I think Lindsey mentioned about checking your thoughts, those kind of things that come along with like mental health and mental well-being, because oftentimes we're not checking that. We're in to me right now, we're in a society that looks at instant gratification. We're looking at something that we want in the moment and not understanding that it does not happen then. And we see success in social media, numbers, all those things. Those things need to really be thrown out the window and understand you are individual in this. No matter if you're doing something in the same sphere as someone else, you're still an individual, and how you create it and design is different. So being able to be aware of that, taking that to accountability, and understanding it's okay if you do mess up. Because it's about that. It's the trials and errors of that. And being kind to yourself. Like that's the biggest part, being kind to yourself in the process.
Yeah. That's dope. Like I'm hearing, like, to your point, Danielle, kindness, what you said, Darren, about that you develop into an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Which I think, again, when you think about those things, it's so true because, well, first, I didn't even do this. Like, how long have y'all been an entrepreneur? How long have you been an entrepreneur?
On and off.
Yeah.
I've been an entrepreneur in different spaces.
Yeah, totally.
So career-wise, I'm a content creator, video producer. So I did that for a few years, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I'll jump into doing new things. So now I'm doing the podcast, but then I decided to expand that with doing classes and master classes. But, video production is part of that.
Yeah.
So
totally.
that was just starting that last year. So that was my first year run, and I was like, whoa, this is not, my mind thought it was going to go completely different, and it didn't. So we're going to try again next year. But so.
So what about you, Darren?
Man, I've been full time since September 2021.
Wow. Okay.
I remember it vividly.
Yeah.
Reason being, and it goes to one of the questions. So I'm not going to expose nothing.
You
but
good?
I remember it vividly because within that first month, I'm just like, God, what did I do? And that's the main thing I was thinking for like that whole month. I'm like, all right, well, you told me to make this decision.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if I was like just being real. I didn't know if I was gonna truly trust God in that process. You know? So I was talking to one of the homies and I was like, bro, I'm scared. You know what I'm saying? He was like, bro, you chill. Bro. You gonna do it, But, those are just the thoughts of like a brand new like baby entrepreneur. Like those thoughts are natural. You know? And we had to accept that those are gonna be thoughts that we're gonna have. So
And then you said you had your practice, right? How long was that?
So I had my practice for, the practice still going.
Okay.
I'm just not a part of it.
Okay.
But I was with the practice from 2018, latter part, maybe that's September of 2018 to roughly April of 2021.
Yeah.
And that's why I can look back in 2023 and say, okay, these are the things that going forward, I know that I no longer need to be, I need to be aware of. So it's almost like hindsight 2020 when you look back. And so, but yeah, for about a year and a half, I was part of a private practice, and I was with one other person.
Yeah. So kind of like piggybacking on that, these self-awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about like mental health and prioritizing mental health, what would you feel like some of the challenges that we face to prioritize our mental health, or why we're not able to prioritize our mental health? Like what are some of those challenges?
Are you talking to me specifically?
Yeah.
Just looking back, like, I did have someone else I was working with. And so I felt like I was running a pace with that person and not my own pace. I also realized there were some unchecked things in my own mental health that need to be addressed that I allowed to take over during that time. Like stress management, not understanding stress, knowing when to cut things off. And when I was doing private practice, I also realized, at the same time I was doing a full-time job, the private practice was part-time. So I'm going for almost 7 days a week trying to generate income for the private practice as well as working a full-time job with benefits. So I didn't know I was burnt out until I was burnt out.
I'm sorry, that last with benefits, like you put emphasis on
with
benefits because he was like, I'm over here hustling for this private practice, but I got a job with benefits.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I have to still go to the doctor. I still have to have all that stuff. But I realized that I was really burning both ends of the stick of the candle. Yeah. And it took me to a place of like, I don't even want to do private practice anymore. Like I had to step away for 2 years before I decided I wanted to go back in there. And that during that time, I realized like, okay, I was doing way too much. And I was never allowing myself to Sabbath. So because I wasn't allowing myself to do that, I didn't have moments of like, reflection, moments of like being able to breathe again. All those things are very important because if you go on this pace that is like, I need to get there, and you're looking at it in its sight. In fact, I was just listening to Tim Ross's The Basement podcast a little earlier on the way here, and he talked about like if you do not Sabbath, if you do not take the time out to take a break, your body and your brain will tell you. Like you're just going to just, and that's what I went through. And I was like, I would never experience that again. Like, and so that 2-year period allowed me to say, okay, you know what? I think I can do this again. Pausing and I'm saying I'm a Christian, so I rely heavy on the Bible, reading my word. That space to be able to just be with God during that 2-year period taught so much about myself, and I'm in a much better place now because I took that time. And that's why, like with entrepreneurs, if you want to take that step to say, hey, I want to do this, be aware. Like self-awareness is so important and understanding like boundaries, understanding like what people you need to have around you, cutting things off when you need to cut things off. Like if you do not need to text somebody, don't text somebody. I've learned that from some other people, like just cutting things off sometimes is very important, for your sanity. And I think sometimes it's being able to to go through that sometimes, because I appreciate it now.
Yeah.
I think I had to go through that to say, you know what, I know I'm called for something.
Yeah.
I know that I am, this is purpose, like I am called to be a therapist. I'm called to help walk people through the hardest seasons of their lives. But I had to go through the hardest season of my life to recognize that is what I needed so I can connect with other people. And not to say you have to do that to be an awesome entrepreneur or whatever, but if you want to prevent the burnout piece and not go through all that, you do have to make sure your pace is at a pace that is comfortable for you and not what society tells you, not what if you're a part of a collaborative kind of like group tells you, because then you're going to be running on the pace of someone else that's not meant or built for you. And it's going to be beyond your capacity.
Now, with you, Lindsey, you just completed a 40-day holistic wellness challenge. So when you think about, and I'm kind of just hearing what Danielle was saying, what were some of those signs or like challenges that you saw that you started to become self-aware that prevented you to prioritize your mental health?
Yes, absolutely. So stress will kill your body. And I first realized that last year. And I was saying to my sons, like, okay, I'm trying to pick up a little weight, but it's okay. I'm stressed. I'll get through it. I'll get through it. And I would continuously not listen to my body to the point where I was short-tempered. I was always fatigued. I was falling asleep, and I just kept pushing. Like, first of all, I was still working a full-time job that was demanding on top of trying to run the business, and you have that. You know, you get trapped where you're seeing stuff on social media and YouTube. I made $20,000 every month, you know. So you're like, well, if they could do it, I could do it. And you tell yourself that's not realistic, but somehow I think I can still do that. And if I just keep working faster, I can get out of being a full-time employee, but I can't make that transition right now. And I'm like, no, that's enough. And so I was building resentment, and I was just feeling all the negative things, and I was like, this is not me. Like, I don't even recognize myself anymore, where now my body is not cooperating with me. Whereas normally I could cut back, work out, and I could get my body feeling great, and I was doing that, and it was like, nah, don't want to do that. I want to rest.
You want to rest?
So I said, okay, I'm gonna step back. And I need to take a sabbatical because I shouldn't be feeling like this. And so I had been doing podcasting for 3 years straight, 600 episodes, nonstop, consistently, like never took a break. And I also had that in my mind, like, I can't let them down. I got to keep recording. You know, you hear all these voices in your mind to tell you to do certain things. And I was like, I'm sorry. I got to prioritize me, because without me, you don't even have a podcast to listen to. So I'm like, let me give myself to the end of the year, take a sabbatical. But even in that time, I'm like, but what do I do? Because my mind still was telling me, hey, we still got to do something. And so I'm like, no, let's be diligent about our wellness. So let's try new wellness activities. Let's try going to the sauna. Let's go to the chiropractor. Let's go to acupuncture. Let's work with our bodies and not just our minds, and work with our emotions, and really just take this time out for you. And so I did that, and in 40 days of being consistent every day, just something, something every day for 40 days, I felt so much better. I got myself out of that rut, and I knew I needed 40 days. I couldn't do like 10 days or 15 days or 21 days. I needed 40 days just to get myself out of the hole. And so now I'm in this space where I feel better, but I can slip back. So I got to do it again. And so just making sure that I'm being diligent about prioritizing my wellness to where it becomes a part of me and my routine, and it feels abnormal to not do that.
Do you, and that's, thank you for sharing. No, because I'm over here, I'm processing what you just said, and Darren, I kind of use you for a moment, like with this question. Is there a burden being an entrepreneur? It is. Like, would you like what is that burden? How would you describe that?
As a young entrepreneur, one of the main things is proving yourself. To who? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I would say, and then making sure that, like what Danielle was saying, like running the course and like really saying like, okay, well, they can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
So now you intentionally putting these unnecessary burdens on your back. God ain't say like, bro, I ain't get that to you.
Yeah.
I ain't get that to you. That's on you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So now you're walking around with like all this stress and all this weight on your back. Now you got 30 pounds on your back, and it's all caused by you.
Yeah.
You know? But there are a lot of burdens with coming with being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I say like proving yourself for one, staying the pace with others, I should say, and just am I on the right path?
Yeah.
You know, like am I following God's purpose for my life? You know, that's what I would say for that.
Definitely. I'm hearing a common theme with each of y'all around like the calling of being an entrepreneur. Because when I think about like my own journey, and I think maybe you, Darren, has said that I was scared, and still am scared, as well as excited, you know, of like kind of balancing those things out of, I really don't want to do this, you know, having moments of I don't want to do this no more, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to do this no more, and then I can't. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's almost where I'm too afraid not to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm now moving into that direction, into that maturity that I'm too afraid not to do it. And Darren, as you mentioned, like far as like the burden that you was feeling, even some comparison, you know, that we feel like, oh, they can do it. Okay, you made 100,000 in 1 month. You know, doing this easy little 3-4 steps. Let me do that too. You know what I'm saying? Like, you playing, right? But then, like, you come to a moment of like separating that and understand that that's not my calling.
True.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, with you, Darren, like, what was some of those process or some of those moments that you had? Was it kind of like that helped you? Maybe it was journaling. Maybe it was like reflecting. Maybe did you like talk to someone and kind of come, why am I running that? That's not my race. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, was anything that you did to kind of get that clarity? Yeah.
So currently, I've been having a lot of conversations with like my homie Nate, co-founder of Open Doors. Check it out. But yeah, so with that. He's just been asking questions like, bro, like, why are you really doing this? You know, like even diving down to like target audience, for example. So I understand that's the target audience you started with, but you know, what's the purpose behind going with this new target audience? And he was like, bro, like, it's cool that you want to go after this target audience, but you got to look at who's like asking for your services. You might want to make some adjustments and things like that, you know. So that's like on the business side. And on the personal side, bro, like I'm gonna be like really real, like
come on, this is where we be.
It hasn't been a lot of prioritizing mental health this year. You know, it just hasn't. Like when I was at my mom's house, when I was at my mom's house, bro, I go to the park every day, bro, every single day. You feel me? Because we had like this, it's like a couple different parts, like not too far away, you feel me? And then I'm in my own spot, bro, and it's like with that, I'm like, all right, I'm just work. I'm just work. I don't really care about nature, none of that right now. I'm just continuing to work. I'm gonna relieve my stress at work, you know? If I'm mad about something, I'm gonna just work about it, you know? So I haven't been prioritizing mental health that much this year. And that's why I'm glad to be here today.
So you're here today. We are here at Do Greater.
Yes.
For Hapi Hood, the podcast, live. And, so this segment of the podcast has been brought to you by Skyhaus Media founder Darren Anderson. They are a real estate marketing and brand company. Their mission is to enrich the real estate marketing and brand experience by providing innovative and compelling digital content that creates a powerful personal connection with your clients, creates wilder exposure, and generates larger customer base. So give it up to one of our sponsors with the cameras. You can go check them out at skyhausmedia.com. You can also follow them on IG at Skyhaus Media as well. So some strategies, as I was kind of hearing you kind of talk about, of like, here's some strategies that I did to kind of think through or help me to gain clarity, you know. So with you, Lindsey, like, what are some strategies outside of what you're doing with the wellness? And maybe like, are there any support groups or anything that really helped you come to this understanding that, I need to reflect, I need to do a better job of this. Like, what are some daily strategies? Let's go there, that you incorporate now into your entrepreneur regimen.
Okay, so things I like to remember is to automate,
Say that again.
automate, delegate, and eliminate. We a lot of times put so much on ourselves to do everything.
Yeah.
And we can't do everything.
Yeah.
We are not a computer. We are not AI, but use those things. Use those things where you can use tools. So things that I like to do for myself that has been helpful is try my best to give myself enough cushioning. So that's content batch. If that is preparing your meals in advance, do that. Just thinking of yourself in the future and showing up for your future self as much as possible, do that. Organization is key. Like, you don't want to spend 30-40 minutes trying to find something if you can help it. So eliminate those future stresses that you will go through, because you don't have that much time. As an entrepreneur, you just don't. And when you have all these things coming at you, you are going to sacrifice your mental health because you're trying to get things done and do XYZ. You're doing marketing, you're creating the content, you're collaborating, you're doing customer service, you're doing all these different things. You're like, it's crazy. It's very abnormal, and you're doing things that you don't really know how to do most of the time. So make time to learn. Give yourself that cushioning. Use discernment as much as possible.
Say that again. Use discernment.
Use discernment. Not everything is always about you, and sometimes we put more pressure on ourselves because we internalize it that it is about us, when it doesn't ever have to be.
That is, I just want to pause right there because it's not about you. That's something that I'm learning. You know, because I think to your point of like this journey as entrepreneurs, and kind of hearing each of you talk about the calling that it has on your life. Sometimes the risk of that calling is thinking that it's your calling. You know what I'm saying? But that's God's calling on you to use you, right? It's not your calling. You know, when it comes your calling, it becomes, oh, I'm gonna do this, that, and the third. You know, and to understand that it's not about you. That resonated with me. You know, because you can't do everything. And I know for me, and maybe you all can relate, I have a trust issue. Because I can be very transparent. I'm very controlling when it comes to my passion. Because here's the thing, it's my calling, I'm trying to hold on to it. But it's not about you. It's not about you.
I feel like, Lindsey, you just kind of unburdened him just in the moment.
Take a sigh of relief.
I'm just, it's not about you, but that's at times it's almost where we run the risk of that. Because to your point, like the pacing, you know, are we trying to get ahead? Are we trying to, oh, they did what? they own 6 figures now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or they done got this, but we don't know their story. We don't know their calling.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes we take selfishly, we take ownership of this, where your purpose is not your purpose. You know, and that's something that if we understand that, to you going back to that burden, maybe it'd be a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe it'd be more lighter. So yes, that was let me inhale that in. let me inhale that in. Danielle, when you think about something you said about managing stress, and something that you had to learn when you was doing the practice, what were some of those techniques that you had or you learned that helped you to manage stress?
Well, one of the things I don't do as much now as I did before was a lot of journaling. And that was very helpful because I was able to get my thoughts out.
Yeah.
Another thing I did too was, a therapist is a therapist.
Come on now.
So I went to therapy.
Yeah.
And I'm currently back in therapy.
Come on now.
Just to process some things that I feel like I have not truly let go.
Yeah.
And go back to the controlling thing too.
Yeah.
Like I like to control my image.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
yeah,
having to let that thing go, knowing that it was embarrassing. So I had to learn how to also be okay with what it is.
Yeah.
Letting just things go. Exercising is important to me. So exercising, going to the gym, letting some things out. And also using some of the grounding techniques, like the breathing in and breathing out, was helpful, especially in stressful moments. And then it's also when I'm very aware of when my mind starts to go to the what ifs, the future, all that, and I recognize how my body responds to that. So now, because I am more aware of that, I tell myself, and I do a lot of self-affirmation, be in the moment. You are here in this moment. There's nothing you can do past this second. That's it.
Yeah.
And you can only do what you can in this moment.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow's moment. This moment.
Yeah.
And that has helped out a lot too.
Yeah.
And then also, I think someone said, I don't know who said we can't do this by ourselves or ask for help.
Yeah.
So I've come to understand that. I am willing to ask for help now. And say, hey, this is what I am going through. And also being a part of small groups in my church, just having these people I can connect with, do life with, has been very helpful too.
Yeah.
So, all those things working together has gotten better. Now, am I 100% there? No, I think it's always a work in progress.
Will we ever be there?
No, I think that's, if we were there, then we won't have what's the point of God? We have to be plugged to Him in order for Him to give us the strength and the things that we need so we can keep moving forward. Yeah. And so, no, I will not probably ever be there, but He'll give me what I need. I think we said, actually, on that podcast we did this past week, our daily bread. And so that's one of the things, too, is having that daily bread. I also have moments with God. Whether it's 10 minutes, I'm reading a devotional, whether I'm reading a scripture out of the Bible, I go to Proverbs, that's my thing. I read a chapter every day, and it just keeps me more reflective. And so those are things that I've done, and I think as far as mental health, it's not one-stop shop, so you have to do things that are helpful for you. Try different things, like how Lindsey did the whole, hey, let me try this, see if it's this or that. All that is important in knowing what is going to be beneficial in getting you through the hump and getting you through the season that you're in.
Yeah, getting you through the season that you're in. One thing that we mentioned around techniques is boundaries. And I have to give it up for my man Darren, because one boundary that I'm seeing that you utilize is a text. If I try to send you a text during a particular time of the day, it'll say my phone on silent. You know what I'm saying? It's almost don't disturb me and everything like that. So when you think about boundaries, what are certain boundaries that you had to establish within your entrepreneurial journey? And what are maybe some tips that people how do you establish these boundaries?
Excellent question. One thing that I just started doing this week, I just put my phone on airplane mode complete. So you're just not gonna get in contact with me.
Yeah.
I know my mom don't like that. So. But aside from that, yesterday, when my friends hit me, I was like, hey, bro, like, you good? I'm like, my phone's on airplane mode, bro.
Yeah.
I'm clocked out. I'm
Yeah.
done for. I'm gonna take this nap. I don't
Yeah.
want anybody talking to me. You
Yeah.
know? So that's one thing I'm starting to utilize this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I would say, man, is like, bro, I'm very like to myself type deal.
Yeah.
So, like, bro, I just like this is like an active thing, you know.
Mhm,
So like
mhm,
going on
mhm.
walks more, I
Yeah.
should say.
Yeah.
And going back to like shout out to my guy Jordan, this bro's like, it's like, bro, if you go into a walk, bro, take your headphones out. Just don't listen to anything. You feel me? Like, just listen to God.
Come on, man.
Like, all right, leave my headphones. Yeah, I'ma just walk, you know.
Yeah.
And wherever my mind goes during that time is, you know, where it goes. You feel
Yeah.
me? But
Yeah.
that's another thing as well, bro. And just making sure that, like, you know, I'm kind of in control of my thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, that's another boundary, bro. Being conscious of your thoughts. I should say it like that.
Yeah.
Being conscious of your thoughts. You feel me? So it's almost like a boundary against yourself,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Mm.
Because you know the brain will try to
It'll
go
take you
every
there.
which- You feel me?
Take you there.
Yeah,
It'll take you there.
It'll try to go in every which direction, you know. So
Mhm.
that's another thing I'll mention, bro. But of course, there's always more, but those are the few that I would mention right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. The boundaries, I know for me, was one of the biggest things I had to overcome or really put in place. Let me say that. Especially with my family. You know what I'm saying? Where it's moments where, okay, it's family time. Put that up.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Put that up. And even like getting to schedules to where my like recording,
Yep.
I record Thursdays or Fridays.
Yeah.
I don't record on it every day because the burnout is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The burnout is real, and you know you burning the candle on both ends, and you know getting cranky with my kids.
Right.
You know what I'm saying, or saying the wrong thing to my wife. Those things have occurred.
Yes.
You know, and then I want to kind of go back to what you were saying about going to therapy. Family. Go to therapy. Go to therapy. Along with my relationship with God. Therapy has allowed me to become a better husband, a better father, a better entrepreneur. Because with it, I mean, it helped me to, like to your point, like just having that clarity and reflection, to understand, like, yeah, it ain't about you. It's not about you in this process that we're in. It's not about you, and just the tips and techniques that I learned that has helped me in so many different ways.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, please.
This is one thing I would mention for any new entrepreneurs or anything like that, right? My process before going into business, I took my butt to therapy.
Yeah.
You feel me? And I don't know how long, it might have been like a year or something like that, you know. But I knew personally, before I even attempt, I should say, to dive into this journey, it's a lot of things within that need to be handled. Of course, they're not going to all be taken care of, you know.
Yeah.
But there was a couple of major things that had to be handled before, like I said, all right, cool, I'm gonna register this LLC and I'm gonna start the Instagram page and all of that. I'm like, man, before all of that,
Yeah.
like, you know, making sure that like at least the foundation is on a little bit more solid material. You know, so that's one thing I'll say, bro, because like, man, like, you know, my past job, bro, like, shout out to my old manager, you feel me, because like, bro really showed me that of like, yo, like, you know, he was actively going to therapy, and I'm seeing, bro, I'm like, damn, okay, this is what it takes, okay, like, bro, serious about this, you know, like, going to like couples therapy, going to personal therapy, just making sure that like the mind is right, focus on the business later. You know, but he was like really focusing on prioritizing that, bro. So that's what I would say for anybody that's like wants to start that stuff, man. Like, prioritize therapy.
Yeah,
for sure.
Prioritize therapy. So again, you listen to Happy Hood, the podcast. We are live. I see some good people in the audience. My mom and dad are here in the audience. Give it up for them. So the therapy, the boundaries, is definitely key. I guess so. I want to kind of let me move into like some how-tos. You know what I'm saying? And we kind of talked about some strategies where it's daily. But when you think about like networking, you know, how has that played into helping you prioritize mental health? You know, when you think about networking, when you think about support groups, Dan, you mentioned like for us the church.
Yeah.
That has helped. That has been an outlet
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
for you that kind of help you to let me recalibrate. You know, these things. Like, how much has that played into prioritizing your mental health? We can start anywhere. Like,
Yeah, I think you have to have a safe place, a safe space.
Yeah.
To be able to, like, and I don't want to say unload because then you can give your burdens to God, but He gives you us people. That's why He created us.
Yeah.
We're created for a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so having a safe place to be able to say this is what I'm going through. And for me, it's having people pray for me and pray over me in those moments of vulnerability. And so I think like, as far as network, because when you say networking, first thing I think about is like how you get your business out there with networking. But if you're looking at it from the perspective of networking and making sure you have the right people in your circle,
Yeah. Come on.
then
Now.
I think that is the kind of networking you have to do as an entrepreneur. I mean, and it doesn't have to be someone that's in your field. It could be someone who is like a friend, a relative, people who you associate in a social kind of circle. But it have to be people who are empathetic and not sympathetic. There's two different things. Empathy is that I can walk with you along the side of you, and sympathy like, oh, hope everything goes well.
Right.
You know, empathy has to be that.
Yeah.
Good luck.
You know, exactly. Good luck. But it was like, no, I feel what you're going through, and this is what I went through. Is how I got through it.
Yeah.
And so the network has to be someone or people, not someone, because we can't burden just one person. We have to have different people in our network. Of being able to just share and feel comfortable in that space of sharing so that they can embrace you and love you and give you the energy you need to push through, get to that next hump and that next stage.
Yeah. What about for you, Dan? Like, far as like networks or support groups that kind of help you to prioritize your mental health?
Yeah, bro. So I mean, you already know the direction I'm gonna go
Yeah,
with this,
yeah.
man. Like, that's a part of the reason why we started Innovator Circle, bro. Because last year, not last year, but earlier this year.
Yeah.
One thing like we were having like me and a couple friends were having a conversation about is like just accountability.
Yeah.
Especially like in this journey of entrepreneurship, you have to be accountable to somebody.
Come on.
You know?
Come on.
Because if not, like you just go off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So with that, when we started to build our Innovator Circle, the purpose of it was like, okay, we want to have these conversations around holding each other accountable in whatever parts of the business journey we are on. You know, so what we had learned is that what we are learning is that every time we have a session, like people are able to just like dive deeper into like, you know, the accountability part of entrepreneurship and saying like, yo, like I really appreciate this, you know, this is really what I needed. And you know, like those are the things that we love to hear. And to your point earlier, it's not about us. You know? Like what I'm seeing through that process is like God used us as the vessels to set it up. That's cool. But it's all just to, you know, help His people at the end of the day. You feel me? So we just want to dive deeper on that, you know, and networking in that space, huge. You feel me? And then for me personally, bro, like just learning more about networking, because I had to ask him, like, what is network? How do you network?
Yeah,
you know?
that is something.
And I'm sure like many people will ask that, right? And I don't have an exact answer to that yet. But what I would say is like, man, I'm just trying to figure out like, yo, listening to what people saying, what they doing, things like that, and whether I'm like, okay, how can I offer something? Or who do I know that I can connect to this person? Because it's not gonna be me. You know.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Last thing is that when it comes to networking as well, a lot of times we're not even networking for ourselves, we're networking for other people.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say too.
Yeah. So, Lindsey, anything you want to chime in on there as far as the networking support groups that you have been part of that kind of helped you to prioritize?
For me, that was one of the things I did not prioritize. So I didn't lean on a community or support. My partner has been very integral in those day-to-day stresses have been like, it's gonna be okay, let's get through it, like keeping my mind clear. And so, but I started learning more about what's considered the stress cycle and just the way we're built for attachments and connection. And so having a community is very integral to you being able to get through stress, because that's just, we're communal people. And so when you don't have a tribe or you don't have a community and you feel that burden even stronger by yourself, it makes it almost impossible to get through certain things. So it is important to have that community.
Yeah, because many times, how can I say this? Entrepreneurship can be a lonely road.
Yes.
A lonely road. Simply because you're walking by faith. And one thing I had to understand is that everyone is not going to understand. Everyone is not going to even see your vision. You know, and I had to get to the point where, they won't see your vision because it's not their vision.
Right.
You know, and the one thing I have to say is, like, when you think about these strategies of, we talk about therapy, we talk about like things we can do on our self boundaries. The biggest thing is having a support group. You know, when I think about my family going, to my wife, if she just like listening to me, I have been involved with Innovator Circle. Like, if you haven't been involved with that family, as an entrepreneur, please get plugged in, because the safe space that Darren provides, you can come there and just say, I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? And that's and you need that type of community, because like, and again, love my wife, but if I go to my wife like, I don't know what I'm doing, it's like, she's gonna listen to me. She may ask some more questions compared to going to a community that entrepreneurs like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, oh yeah, bro, I was just there last week.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is how, you know what I'm saying? And then you kind of build up on that to kind of help you along the way, which is critical.
Yes.
Which is critical. I do want to engage the live audience. Any questions or comments that any one of you all want to provide? All right. I did the work at work. We do the 10 seconds. T Rich, I see you raising your hand. What's up?
Yeah, first I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. I'm so excited about what you're doing with your podcast, J. Murray, and this is a fantastic panel. I want to thank you all for being vulnerable and for sharing your thoughts on entrepreneurship. And I want to congratulate you on your anniversary. I think you said you started in 2021 in September, so.
See, glad you said that.
All right.
Because I forgot. Thank you.
I just want to touch on one thing, maybe ask a question to the two women of the panel. It seems to be this dichotomy between something that the both of you said almost back to back. So you talked about taking care of your future self in preparation, and I think that's really important. But you also talked about being in the moment, Danielle. And so they seem, in my brain, those two things are clashing. So maybe if both or if one of you could kind of touch on like finding the balance in between that, so that you can take care of your future self while also maintaining and being in the moment, being present, so that you don't lose the time that you have right now.
I think there's a difference
Wonderful
between
question.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's a difference between planning and making an organization and making sure that you're good in the future, the present, versus when you're in the moment of the worrying of what that looks like, of how do you do that, getting caught up in the processes in your mind, and recognizing that, okay, I have to stop this in a moment and realize I'm here in this moment. I can only do what I can in this particular moment, and allow yourself to step back from that if necessary. That's how I see it, because I think like there's nothing wrong with planning. There's nothing wrong with making sure you're good for the future, but you're not in the future right now.
Right.
So that is where you have to see it does kind of coincide, because if you get caught up in the processes, then you're not good for your future self to be able to plan and to organize.
I completely agree with that as well. You don't want to be too reactive. And so for me, when I do take time out, you know, segment your day, but taking time out to think, let me do something for me later on. So when I do feel like I had a bad day, you coming home to a made up bed kind of thing. In those moments where you're kind of getting, this happened to me yesterday, I was all discombobulated. I had so much stuff thrown at me with work and where my mind was going, and I felt like I was in 5 different places. And I said, I don't feel here. I feel weird, you know. And so I had planned to go to yoga before all this, right? So I had a friend ask me, "Oh, come to yoga. I'm holding a yoga session." I was like, "Okay, cool. Be something to do for wellness, great." But it actually turned out to be right on time. So in a sense, last week I set myself up to do that, just thinking, "Okay, I'm just gonna do yoga," but it helped me in that moment when I needed to be present. But I set it up for myself for those moments. So find the balance. You don't want to be too process oriented, like, okay, let me plan out every little thing, but keeping it with the intention of, I'm going to have a bad day one day. I'm going to be stressed. I'm not going to feel great, and I'm not going to feel like I'm always going to be on top of it all the time. So that's what those moments are for, when you are preparing yourself for something later on, when you just want to be able to relax and not have those constant stresses, because you're going to need to eat. You're going to need to be able to rest. You're going to need to be able to have things to keep the day going. Why not set that up for yourself, so that's not one extra layer of stress that you're going to endure?
I'm going to chime in, but Darren will give you a chance to chime in on that balance, if you have any thoughts.
Yes. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that you guys have kind of helped me working out of my brain, but I think there's a dichotomy between, let me phrase it this way. I am constantly thinking about what needs to be done later. And because of that, I often don't enjoy what's going on in my right now. And so to hear both of them say those things opposite of each other, prepare yourself for tomorrow, while also being in the moment, it was not computing for me. And so for you, in your experience, maybe just kind of share what that balance might look like. How are you in the moment and enjoying yourself, enjoying your life, enjoying your entrepreneurial journey, while also ensuring that, 3 weeks from now or 3 months from now, things are kind of set up so that you're not maybe discombobulated when you're trying to do the real work.
Yeah, so funny enough, opposite of what Lindsey has said, I'm very process oriented, and it can be to a detriment. Because I have a knack for operations. So in that comes a lot of organizing and stuff, So that balance is letting it's funny. My mom had mentioned this because I'm filling out my calendar. That's cool. You know what I'm saying? But allowing time for God to do what He needs to do. Because that goes back to what Murray was saying. It's like, want to be in control all the time in our lives. Like, bro, that's not realistic. So just allowing that free time to just breathe. Aside from the organization from the day, being intentional about saying, okay, this is an empty gap right here. I'm just gonna do nothing. And I'm gonna enjoy doing nothing. So that's what I would say for that.
Yeah.
That's so key.
I would say this, and this is something that again through therapy I learned around being controlling was the trust factor. Because the whole thing, you may say, well, manage what you can control. I want to control everything. You know what I'm saying? I want to control everything. I want to control what's going to happen 3 days from now. You know, I want to control what's in the moment. You know, but I had to come to the understanding that when the thing about like controlling, like why you want to do it, because I don't trust. And this again, like with my relationship with God, I had to come to understanding how to trust God in the future. You know what I'm saying? Because I can plan, and I'm not seeing the results. I'm not seeing the results that I thought I was going to see at this time, God.
Yeah.
So I need to be in control. No, I need you to just manage what you can control. That's in the moment, your attitude, you know, continue showing up. That was for me, and it's still a learning process of maturing in that, to show up for your future self and be grateful for whatever that is. But then also having like, what can I control? I can control my attitude right now. I can breathe right now. You know, I can, you know, understand that, yeah, I can't do this, you know, or I can trust who I delegated something to and trust that they're going to get it done without like, have you done that yet? You know, I mean, and I know that's me, that I didn't realize that, like, oh yeah, you can be controlling because you have trust issues, especially when it comes to what you feel is yours, but in reality, it ain't yours. You just stewarding this. You know what I'm saying? You just stewarding this right here. It's not even yours. So again, you listen to Hapi Hood the podcast. We are live at Do Greater. I think we had a comment in the seat right here.
Actually, yeah. Well, we both were raising our hands, but
Okay.
In each of what you guys do, how do you maintain a competitive edge in your industries while prioritizing self-care?
I plan it. No, I'm serious about it, because I know for me, it's the execution part.
Yeah.
And if I don't take time to effectively plan, that means taking moments to unplug, using problem-solving techniques. You know, if you want to get real granular, but really planning, going out to different places and seeing, like, what is your competition doing? You know, learning and reading. I think like podcasts, like going out and listen to other people's podcasts. You know what I'm saying? And even going back and listen to my podcast and critiquing myself. Which sometimes that's hard because I don't like listening to myself. You know what I'm saying? But I think for me, that's the balance of it. Is for me, is like that planning. Like I had to learn that this year. Like, did you effectively plan? Because you feel like the execution steps we missing something. Well, did you truly plan it out? You know, to understand, like, you know, if you're doing, you know, competitive analysis, but to me, that's how I stay competitive. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'll answer that one. One thing I constantly refer to within like my inner circle is the blue. It's not what we call it, but it's the Blue Ocean Strategy. So it's a book about like, all right, cool. So see what they doing over there. That's what's up. That's cool. All right, check that out. I'm gonna analyze that. We're gonna move different. You know. Now, in where we're at in business right now, I see like how competition is moving and stuff like that, and then I'll just continue to have conversations with more clients, community members, and things like that. And I'm like, okay, let's switch it up again. You know, that way it's kind of like, nah, we switched it up again. You know, and it was like, damn, what they gonna? I don't know what we're gonna do next. You know, so that's one thing I would mention, as well as like what Murray was mentioning is like, all right, see how y'all are moving. That's cool. That's what's up. We still gonna like pick up from that, but then we just gonna add our own flavor to it as well, you know?
Yeah.
So that's one thing I would say too. And as far as like still prioritizing mental health though, I'm still trying to figure that out, bro.
Yeah.
I'm real with you.
And
But yeah.
I was add one thing. I'm sorry. This is what I get. No, because it's you asked a great question, and someone told me like you know we hear the old step like shoot or shoot. You know, I had podcasters podcast. You know what I'm saying? So what you do, you also study other podcasts. You know what I'm saying? So I have to go and listen to the Tim Ross. I have to go even listen to people that's not even in, I would say, my category of podcasts to see the flow of it. You know what I'm saying? So I think for me, I'm obsessed with studying and seeing how can I get better and really like practicing that continuous improvement mindset. You know, so I just thought about that. So
I would say this, I'm not studying anything. I'm not even looking at any like competition. I have social media breaks where I don't even look at anything, which is so important for my mental health.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more so like, how do I sharpen my skill set and what do I want to focus on as a clinician? Because there's so many different, it's therapy. So the whole idea is to help someone work through and deal and manage what they are dealing with in that moment or in the past or whatever. And so it's like, okay, what am I passionate about? What am I? What is God giving me that I can put out there so someone else can learn from what I am gathering information for? So it's like for me, it's like going to trainings, reading different books, being open to listening to different type of treatment options. You know, my thing is mood and nutrition. Like, how does mood affect your nutrition? You know, ADHD, neurodevelopmental disorders. Like, you know, how do people work through that? What kind of strategies do they need? Those kind of things. And so I don't look at it as a competitive edge because therapy is a field where I feel like it's not a one-stop shop. And then on top of that, everybody's not for everybody. So it doesn't matter if, like you said, you come to me and you're like, I have the best skill set, but you're just kind of like, I ain't feeling that. Her personality kind of off. You go to Lindsey, you like, this is it. It's like shoe shopping. So it's more so for me being able to feel comfortable in what I provide, being knowledgeable, and be able to present it in such a way that that person that's in front of me is able to get that information and that we are walking through this therapeutic relationship. So for me, it's not about competition. It's about the competition. Reality is myself in reality.
Can I add one?
Well, yeah, please.
What's your name again, bro? Andre, yes. Andre, one thing that came to mind as Danielle was sharing that is that, bro, I've been heavy on this one thing this year is that what's for you and who's for you is gonna be for you. So it's like we don't even have to fight for this client over here because if they want to work with us, cool. They gonna work with us regardless, you know. But no amount of strategy, no amount of marketing is going to attach them to us if they're not our client, you know. And that's one thing I've been heavy on. I've been sharing with some of my friends too. Is like, yo, like when it comes to like certain clientele and things like that, even the ones that those of us that work within the same exact industry, like what Danielle was mentioning, this person is for me, but this person over here is for me, and there's not much that we can do about it or try to manipulate. We can try to manipulate it, but at the end of the day, what's for you and who's for you is gonna be for you. So yeah.
I'll add one more thing. No, because
ahead.
it just happened. Because I like in business, I think. Well, I say this in business, you have to understand, especially all the different types of entrepreneurs out there. Am I income driven or am I impact driven? I am prioritizing impact. You know, because if one person listens to this podcast and is able to prioritize their well-being, their mental well-being for success, I have done my job. You know what I'm saying? So it's understanding, are we income driven? Are we impact driven? You know, Darren, I know you had a question.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. This has been awesome. Thank you for sharing your experiences and insights. I was just curious, the theme of this discussion is thriving as an entrepreneur. And I was curious of each of your definitions of thriving.
That's a good podcast question. That's a good podcast question. Before we answer that, let me just provide another segment sponsor because we are live here at Do Greater. Come on. Again, you're listening to Happy Hood the podcast, and this segment has been brought to you by Blossom and Bliss. Founder Edwina Friday is a certified holistic wealth coach, and she just released a 52-week fitness journal and 12-week wellness journey. And you can go follow her at Miss Friday 2010 on IG. And we have those here, these books here. So we'll be giving this out to someone in the audience. So, again, thank her for being a sponsor and for all our sponsors. Thriving as entrepreneurs. Like, who wants to take it first?
You're staring at me, John. Are you staring at me?
I'm looking down there.
That way, okay, so I guess it is me. So, thriving, I don't know why I feel like that, something about surviving goes with that.
Ooh, yeah.
And so I think, like, when we look at it from a mental health perspective, it's really an individual specific thing, like, how we look at it. And so, for me, thriving is making sure that I am taking care of myself. Mm-hmm. That I am making sure that, what kind of mistakes do I don't want to make again? What kind of things that I can capitalize on as far as like those dark spaces I was in before where I felt overwhelmed and crying at night, wondering what in the world I get myself into. Making sure that I just work those kind of things out. I don't know if that's making any sense. Because I'm trying to think of examples of that to make it more like connected. But it is truly like everything that we had talked about before, like making sure that I am aware of when I am having these negative thoughts, making aware that, how is my body feeling in these moments where I feel overwhelmed? What do I need to do in order to get myself back to a place of like just peace and contentment to me, so that I'll be able to move forward in whatever I need to do. Right now, I'm not doing entrepreneurship. I did it before in the past. So I recognize the warning signs and the symptoms of what it can look like if I do not take care of myself. So thriving really is just like being able to cut things off when I need to cut things off. Thriving is being able to connect with people when I need to connect with people. Thriving is like if I have a conversation with someone, being able to give them whatever tools or things that I have I've come to do. That's thriving to me in mental health, like passing along to someone else so they can do better, so they can thrive too.
And one thing I would add to that as well is that thriving for me personally, bro, is it's based off of the type of business that we want to run first off. So I was watching this podcast, and the way the dude broke it down was saying like, okay, so you have do you want to build a lifestyle business or do you want to build a business to sell? I was like, dang, I didn't really think about that, and a lot of us, we may think we are building a lifestyle business, we might be building a business that we want to sell. And we, and for many of us who might be building a business that we want to sell, we realize like, no, I just want this to help with lifestyle and do things that I want to do, And one thing I had realized, I'm like, okay, if I want to build a lifestyle business, are the things that I'm doing in my life helping me like get towards that? Like, trips, all right, cool. You want to go across the country and things like that. But the things we're doing in our business, is that lining up with that? If it is, then I would say we're thriving, for real. So that's one thing I would add is that what's the type of business we want to build, and then that'll kind of help us know like, okay, if it's a lifestyle business, am I setting this up to where I want to take trips to Cancun, Canada, Japan, whatever, so that's what I'll add to that, bro.
Okay, thank you.
I would say it's always going to be personal to you, but as long as you can create that vision for what that ideal self is of being an entrepreneur, and each day doing something that ideal self would do, is going to bring you that sense or that feeling of thriving. Sometimes it's getting the results, sometimes it's making the sale, sometimes it's having the recognition. That's all going to be personal to you. But even if it's that you didn't make the sale, but learning how can I get better at getting the sale? What are some strategies that I can learn? I think that's so important because, again, going in, you're not a regular person anymore. So when you go in, you're making that transition, but you're coming from usually an emotional mindset where you take things personally, like, oh, why didn't they buy my stuff? Like, is it not good enough? Am I not worthy? Blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you just have to learn a new strategy. You have to learn, like, well, how do I do this? What's the marketing tips or strategies to do? And so doing something in that wheelhouse of whatever your goal is aligns with your vision. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing to what you said, Lynn. Like, it has to be personal.
yeah.
And you have to define what thriving, and I'm kind of using the word success, what's that look like for you?
Yeah.
Because it could be 5 figures. It can only be, it could be 6, it could be 7. You know, when I think about what I'm doing with Hapi Hood, I'm having moments of reflecting, of like, what do I really, even me doing this for 3 years, I'm still discovering what does success looks like, you know, and, you know, because if we add more to it, you know, to go from, you know, this figure to that figure, you know, if you're going from 5 to 6, as Biggie said, more money, more problems, you know.
Level
So
the devil.
yeah, exactly. So it's understanding that, yeah, do I really want to be doing that? Do I really want to be doing this, or do I, you know, is this right here? Is this good for me to thrive not only as entrepreneurs but to your mental? You know, like, yeah, this is enough mental capacity, emotional capacity that I want to use. Because if I add anything else to it, I won't be thriving.
And can I
You know what I'm
ask-
saying?
I want to ask something too. 'Cause
Yeah.
when you were saying that, I was thinking about when I first did going to private practice. I had every single thing, every single person I wanted to see, every single diagnosis, like, and that to me, I was getting everything. It's drilling it down to something that you know you specialize in, something that you know that you are, like, God has called you to be, things you find like that's your passion. And to me, that's when you thrive in. You thrive in your passion. You thrive in the things that you love. You thrive in the things you care about. And so that's why I narrowed it down to, like, these are things that I know I care about because I'm kind of like drawn to these things. And so, you know, going back to thriving, it is personal, and it's the things that you know that you'll wake up in the morning that you're like, oh, I can't wait to do this.
Yeah.
I can't wait to, like, learn something more about this. Oh, I'm gonna Google about this because this interests me. That's thriving. That's being able to keep it going, keep it moving, because of the passion that's behind it. That's what, to me, also is another additional to thriving.
Yeah, it's almost like, to your point, you had almost said surviving.
Yeah.
But to me, surviving is when I have to. I'm $2 million in debt.
Oh, shit.
I have to go out here and make. I have to go out here and make sales. You know what I'm saying? I know business that are like that. I gotta go be more in debt. You know what I'm saying? Just to get me out. That's what I have to. But to point where you thrive is like, I get to do this. Like, I get to have a live podcast. You know what I'm saying? And whatever comes from it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's when you go from surviving to thriving. You know. So again, you're listening to Hapi Hood the podcast. We are live here at Do Greater. So I guess kind of leave it with this question here, in which we talked about. Wow, we talked about a lot. We talked about a lot. We talked about boundaries. We talked about different techniques. Even some of y'all mentioned some books, some podcasts that you have utilized to help you to prioritize mental health. I guess this question here, knowing what you know now, what are maybe one thing that advice that you will give to an entrepreneur around prioritizing their mental health? What's one thing that you would say, hey, I want you to do this? It can be, I want you to do X, you know. It can be, hey, I want you to do this. I want you to go read this book. I want you to go listen to this. Or you need to make sure you put this in your regimen. That's what's one thing that, even when you think about your journey as an entrepreneur, that help you to prioritize your mental health, that you will advise others to do. We can start with any direction.
I'm going to say get to know you as a person. Because if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, you're looking at all these different things in a certain industry that you are trying to emulate, or an industry that you want to get into, maybe not even just get into. Know who you are as a person and know your capacity. Looking back, I didn't. I just took everything in. Like I said, I took the pace of someone else, and I never really, in the whole idea of being an entrepreneur, like, this is cute. Like, I got my own private practice. I'm doing it. And the whole idea of I'm a boss.
Yes.
Throw all that out the window.
Throw that out. Please throw that out. Throw that out.
Because that really, to me, is a draining mental construct about being this boss when we don't even know what that really means. And so it's really, for me, looking back, I really knew who I was as a person and what God created me for. And He created me as Danielle Nicole Harper, not anyone else. And to me, I think if I had that mentality before I started, I may still be in it, because I'll be doing it because of what He's pouring into me and I'm pouring out, versus what I think I need to be poured into me and not knowing it all.
What I would add to that is be comfortable being last. The reason I mention that is to give a brief background, going back to my past job, just working under an entrepreneur. Like, bro, I done seen them like, oh, hey, all right, I gotta pay y'all. Can I pay you through this way? Can I pay you through that way? Just making sure that his team is fed first, and I'll worry about my money on the back end, And we often forget that in entrepreneurship, depending on the type of entrepreneur we want to be, you have people that need to be prioritized as far as paying the payroll and making sure that they fed and stuff like that. And it's like, all right, well, I'll figure out how to get it on the back end type thing, So one thing I would say is to a future entrepreneur, for one, is be comfortable being last, for one, and then for two, finding ways to strengthen that business foundation. So regardless of what industry we want to get in, the industry doesn't really matter. What matters is strengthening the business foundation as a whole. And a book I would recommend is a book called Traction.
Traction.
Yes,
Okay.
I would recommend a book called Traction. Getting a grip on your business, and there's a lot of businesses that utilize the traction strategy. I ignored it when somebody mentioned it to me the first time. It was a successful entrepreneur. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, that's what's up. Another successful entrepreneur mentioned, like, why does this book keep coming up?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Maybe I need to pay attention to it. So
Yeah.
I would recommend the book Traction for sure.
Traction.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I would say continuously invest in yourself. You are the most expensive thing you will ever own. And managing yourself is a full-time job.
Yes. Yeah.
And one of the books I thought was really good is called $1 Million Habits. And it really pulls out the habits of very successful people and creating the mindset that you would need in order to be able to really jump into that business mind, which is helpful because the habits lead into the things that you receive moving forward.
Cool. Well, hey, let's give a round of applause to our panelists. I want to thank each of you coming on to Happy Hood the podcast. I want to thank our live audience for also being here. I want to thank the good people at Do Greater, Coach Mac in the back. And again, I just want to thank everyone for being here. And always know this, that, hey, you were made to be great. Greatness is in you, all right? But no matter what life may bring you, always love God, love yourself, love your neighbor. I'm your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray. Till next time, be blessed.
Yeah.